Tuesday with licensed professional counselor Yunetta Spring.
All right, y'all, Rick's About the Morning Show is Talk It Out Tuesday with licensed professional counselor Yunetta Spring. Good morning, Yunetta.
Good morning, Rickey. How y'all doing?
Man, we good right now. We need therapy for the internet. Our internet acting up. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, man.
Black Tony ain't show up for work. You know, Black Tony is in quarantine. There's just a lot going on this morning.
He's been in quarantine for years, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, we are so happy to have you this morning. And, a lot of people decide, to start therapy when they are experiencing some type of life change transition. But the change isn't always easy. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'm glad, you mentioned that because this week we're celebrating, bringing awareness around World Mental Health Day. I think Brett mentioned that earlier. And that's going to be observed on October 10th. And with everything that's kind of going on in 2020, we're all a little bit more focused, I would hope, about our mental health and the quality of that. So like you said, people don't typically seek therapy until, or kind of get worried about or get concerned about what's going on within their mind until it starts to interfere with their quality of life. So, hopefully, we can kind of change that and make therapy a priority. When people show up to my office, it's usually after they've experienced a negative symptom for a considerable amount of time. You wouldn't believe how long people deal with things before they talk about them. So they dealt with feeling stressed and depressed, and their relationships are suffering, or they're on the brink of ending, or they have in fact ended. So they consider therapy a last resort, and I want to change that as well. In order for things to change, things have to change, and I think that's what we're doing here. So I'm going to share 3 things that kind of prevent us from moving forward, changing, and seeking therapy. The first one is fear of the unknown. So we are naturally conditioned to resist unfamiliar things. It's just how we're wired. It's how we protect ourselves. Our first instinct oftentimes is to avoid the unknown. It's just a precautionary measure. So I don't want people to feel like they're being shamed, for being afraid of changing or being afraid of seeking therapy. This isn't to shame you, to say like you've been dealing with this cycle for a prolonged period of time and you can't, figure it out. The reality is we're all human. We're all kind of dealing with something. And, proceeding with caution or being kind of a little resistant can actually be an indication that our brain is doing its job to protect us. So that's why this segment is so important, Rickey, and I'm so grateful that you're using this platform, to share information about mental health and stress the importance of therapy or any form of healing or self-discovery, because it makes the process less scary for people. It helps people become more comfortable with engaging in the process. I always say confusion is a breeding ground for anxiety. So where there are question marks in your mind or where there's confusion, there's going to be some form of reluctance, The second thing is feeling like you aren't enough. So one thing what holds people back from therapy is sometimes, like we said before, the shame, like that idea that I should be able to fix this on my own. I should be able to figure this out independently. And we have all these preconceived notions about like our perfection and value. Like somehow I'm less valuable if I'm not successful, or, I'm less valuable if things are falling apart in my life. And that's not the truth. When it comes to implementing change, sometimes people feel like they're not equipped, they're not good enough to deal with it. So therapy can help us explore the whys and where this belief system came from. Like, who told you that you weren't good enough? Therapy can kind of help you unpack that. And the last thing is failures in the past. So there's a quote that says, the best way to predict future behavior is by looking at past behavior. And I agree that there's some validity to that, but how does that translate if your past hasn't been ideal? If you had a rough past, so I like to reframe that statement and say the best way to predict future behavior is by evaluating what you have learned from your past behavior.
Right.
So sometimes
right.
we avoid therapy because we fear like revisiting failures, right? We fear like, I don't want to deal with those painful memories, you know? But the reality is we are already revisiting these experiences subconsciously. Like we're already replaying these experiences. So unless you have reprocessed and restored your negative experiences or your painful memories, they're more than likely impacting you, you know? So therapy can help you clear that up and help you heal. I mean, the reality, we all have resources. Everybody has resources. Right. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't have tools to help us survive. So, you know, as a therapist, it's not my job about giving, you know, it's not my job to necessarily give you all the tools, but it's about me highlighting and shining a light on the tools that you already possess. So that's what I have. You know, I hope it helps people to feel a little bit more comfortable with the process of therapy, and really getting focused on addressing the health of your mind.
Man, this is just awesome. And thank you so much for all of this information. If anybody want to find you, how can you be reached?
Yeah, so you can reach me on social media at Springforth Counseling. You can follow my YouTube page, Yunetta Spring. Or if you want to sign up for resources in my mailing list, you can text the word SPRING to 55444.
I appreciate you always. There it is, y'all, the one and only Yunetta Spring. Hey, you need Yunetta, we're going to get you a theme song. Yunetta Spring. Yeah.
No. You gotta go.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.